Hello, this is a message specifically for journalists or anyone that wants to help us to spread awareness of an issue at the moment. I've been banging on for weeks, if not months, about the issues that psychology and psychologists and psychiatrists cause to the ME/CFS patient community. I'm going to share a few links on this post just to reinforce what I've been saying for months. To make this clear, in the past few weeks, the messaging that ME/CFS is a psychological condition, that ME/CFS patients are bullies, that ME/CFS patients are online trolls, that ME/CFS patients just don't want to admit that there's nothing wrong with them, that has ramped up hugely in the press, in social media, in the British Medical Journal, in the Lancet, in various other medical journals. And to be perfectly frank, as an ME patient, as an ME patient advocate, and as the founder of an ME/CFS online training platform to train business, healthcare and education, I'm going to do my utmost to stop that messaging. To be clear, ME/CFS is a neurological disease. ME has been classified as a neurological disease by the World Health Organization since 1969. Many scientists around the world now recognise that fact, but for some reason in the UK, psychology and psychologists rule the roost where ME/CFS is concerned. The NICE guidance is due to be finally published in April. And for the past few months, I've been saying the messaging is going to ramp up. I predicted it well. I'm going to share some of the false narrative articles that have been posted recently on this post, so you see what I'm talking about. We need journalists to accurately represent what ME/CFS is in the press. The reason for that is that long COVID patients are now experiencing stigma, because the stigma that is attached to ME/CFS, because it is an invisible disease, it's only invisible because you don't know what you're looking for, because it is an invisible disease, nothing is showing up in blood tests that are offered as standard procedure on the NHS. The only time anything is showing up as abnormal is when you maybe go private and have a specialist MRI scan or something. I've had an MRI scan. My lung chest pain isn't showing up anywhere. Doesn't mean I'm not feeling it. And because it is true that one of the subsets of long COVID is post-viral fatigue syndrome. Historically, when you have post-viral fatigue syndrome for 6 months or more, if you meet the criteria for ME/CFS, you get an ME/CFS diagnosis. And scientists have now predicted that up to 10 million new cases of ME/CFS are going to be triggered by COVID-19. I'm going to attach that research article on this post, so you can see I'm not making it up. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. And yet, anytime ME/CFS is mentioned in the press, despite lots and lots and lots of biomedical research findings of physical evidence of disease, there is always the caveat. So-and-so from the Association of Psychologists insists they won't accept that it's a psychological illness. This is going to harm so many patients. Please listen to ME/CFS patients. I am prepared to give journalists free access to our training if it means we get accurate representation in the media. Because everything that you read about is, I'll say controlled, but that's too strong a word, influenced by the psychological narrative. Journalists will have heard of the Science Media Centre. That used to have psychologists and psychiatrists on their board. They are all friends now. They still push the psychological narrative. And it's something that ME/CFS patients, advocates and charities and scientists have been pushing against for years. This false narrative is now affecting long COVID, so it's got to stop. Millions and millions of patients are now being misrepresented and are suffering the consequences. Case in point, a patient knows their body, they know their symptoms, they've done their own biomedical research, they've spoken to patients online, they've spoken to scientists online. Specialist ME/CFS doctors, there aren't many, but there are a couple, online. Those people have said, please don't exercise, please don't push through, you need to rest as much as possible. Their family, the patient's family, read an article in The Guardian, in The Times, in the Sunday Times. They're the usual culprits. And they say it's a psychological illness, they just need to exercise. They've got false beliefs about their illness. They think their beliefs make them think that they're going to get sympathy and going to get better treatment from their family if they act sick. That is so harmful. I've got a life to live. I do not like being disabled, and if I had a choice over it, I would snap out of it as soon as possible. But that is the narrative that's been pushed out online. And worryingly, all sorts of people at the head of their profession are friends with these psychologists. And I'm not going to name names because this isn't about going after people. I'm not part of cancel culture. But people at the top of their profession are now blocking entire patient communities online so that they don't have to have the debate about whether ME is psychological or not. Now, bearing in mind, this is Twitter, this isn't like the BMJ or something, but what they're doing is they're writing articles in the BMJ or the Lancet, posting it on Twitter, knowing there'll be no opposition to it. So their narrative is allowed to flourish. I can't tell you how frustrating that is. There are over 250,000 ME/CFS patients in the UK. And when you consider their families, that's like, what, 1 million people that are being stigmatised? Because you stigmatise me, you stigmatise my family, who are enabling my false beliefs. ME/CFS is not a psychological condition. There is biomedical evidence of disease in our bodies, usually found in post-mortems, because it's so hard to find, but our blood, our guts and our brains are affected by ME/CFS. There is no psychological cause of that. The thing with psychological research is you have to remember there is no evidence. You are being persuaded by somebody's opinion. You cannot prove psychological conditions. There is no physical evidence of that. So all we ask is that you keep your minds open and look at the physical evidence of disease. MS used to have exactly the same problem. They had exactly the same fight as we're having now. Would anyone dream of saying that about MS now? It was fairly recent. I think it was within the last 20 years that the tide turned on MS. MS is now recognised as a seriously disabling neurological disease. I think it's neurological. Don't correct me on that. I can't remember, but MS. So I'm happy to offer free access to any journalist that wants to engage with our cause and help us with getting the message out. George Monbiot from The Guardian did an absolutely exceptional piece last month. He took the time to talk to patients to investigate what ME/CFS was, and he saw for himself the false information and the false narrative coming from psychologists. So the BMJ has strong links with psychology. The Science Media Centre has strong links with psychology. The head of GPs is married to a psychologist. She went on BBC Breakfast to push her false narrative 2 weeks ago. We need help from outsiders to help us, because if they push the narrative that we are psychologically impaired, or whatever the term is, sorry if that's not PC, if they push that narrative, who is going to believe us? We need people from outside of the community to engage. So please do contact me direct, info@stripylightbulb.com, and let me talk to you about ME/CFS. I'm open to talk to any journalist, do any kind of public speaking, because to be frank, I've just about had enough. I've been fighting this for 6 years. We thought that the NICE guidance was going to change things. That coincided with the pandemic, and now there are hundreds of thousands of people also going to be harmed by this false narrative. It has to stop. If you can help me with that, please do get in touch. Thank you.